good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Man, do we have an interesting show for y'all tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here and spending your Thursday evening with us. And by us, I mean myself and my good buddy, Mr. Brian Tseng of the Full Disclosure Now movement. He is here in the studio with me tonight. We're going to be exploring a race of little people tonight. And I was tasked with a really cool target last year. And we're going to talk about that tonight. It is the San Pedro Mountain Mummy. And for those of you who are not familiar with the San Pedro Mountain Mummy, we're going to go down that rabbit hole tonight. There's so many different things that this little mummy could be. And it was never proven any which way what this thing is. As a matter of fact, there is still a reward out. I think it's like $10,000. If you guys can locate this little mummy and the x-rays and have all that stuff, you can win $10K, y'all. So the hunt is on. Okay, the hunt is on for the San Pedro Mountain Mummy. Maybe I should have remote viewed that before the show. I would have gone and gotten that reward money, y'all. Okay, but anyways, it's never too late. and so we're going to see what the remote viewing data says about this little guy. Is it a grown adult human? I mean, is it a human? Is it a small child? We're going to really get into this because, like I said, the debate is hot on the San Pedro Mountain Mummy. And this thing was found in the early 1900s. It was even put through a sideshow for a while and exploited all throughout Wyoming, as a matter of fact. So buckle up, y'all. We're in for a wild ride tonight, and this is really cool. I love talking about the little people. If you guys will remember, my good friend David Pardue came on the show and showed us some video clips, an actual video of a little person peeking out from behind a tree. And this was over a course of hours that he had this video footage of. And that's up in North Carolina, where they do have the Cherokee little people up there, the Nunniway. And we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Okay, so if you guys would like to check out the archive of my shows and all that kind of stuff, please go over to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there. And also, I've got a Patreon where all of my remote viewing data is posted there for this target tonight. I do have some pretty great data tonight, and you guys will definitely want to check that out and follow along during the show with what I have to say. I'm going to talk about most of that data tonight here publicly on the show. And so also, and I want to thank all of my members, by the way. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Patreon family over there. It means the world to me. I also have a shop on Etsy. It's called War Woman Goods if you'd like to support my work. Also, before I bring Brian up, I will be at the Full Disclosure Now conference that's coming up next month, July the 15th through the 18th. We're going to talk about that more when Brian comes up. And please, if you're going to go to that, please use the discount code. That is my personal discount code. It's 2025 FDNC Jessica 17. For anyone who's listening over the airwaves, y'all listen, it's 2025 FDNC Jessica 17. So y'all use that for your discount code to this amazing conference. It's going to be a great time, and a lot of wonderful people will be at this conference. Full disclosure, y'all, it's full disclosure. And these are some of the biggest, brightest voices in the disclosure movement. So join us there. Okay. All right. Well, let's bring Brian up. Since we're speaking about the full disclosure movement, Brian Tseng is a longtime disclosure advocate, and he's joined me on the show several times, and I can't wait to see him again next month down in Florida at the conference. Please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Brian Tseng.
Hey, Jessica, and hello, everybody. It's awesome to see Maureen moderating our you're always very lively chat in the background there in the comments section, Jessica. And you have one of the more active audiences and especially a lot of regulars. I recognize you all. So hello. I'm looking forward to the conference because we're in the last month and a half, not even run up to it. And, it's really interesting because it wasn't at our conference last year, but it was at, I think, Ascension Fest, Stairway to the Stars, with our friend Jimmy Church, where they had a gentleman presenting some of the Bolivian skeletons that have been X-rayed, and they were kind of definitely on the very tiny side. And in the brief time I got to research the San Pedro Mountains skeleton, a lot of the researchers or people who have looked into it, especially the more mainstream skeptical community, they push that it's like a child, right? It's an infant, like a fetus or something, and it mummified, and that's all it is, no big deal. Well, I point out to these other skeletons turning up in other parts of the world that are very similar. They don't look human in features. And then you've got this whole mystery of the skeleton being found by these miners back in the day, and then changing hands. And then the last owner who had it, Jamie Kelly, has an irrational fear of little people.
She does. Hey, Jamie.
Yeah, avoid watching any of the Chucky movies. Then.
Yeah, or the Leprechaun movies.
Yeah, or the Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently the last time this thing was seen was 60 something years ago. Someone owned it, and then they mysteriously died, and then it's gone. And so that to me is probably one of the biggest red flags for it being some kind of legitimately valuable artifact, because that's where did the Smithsonian or the Vatican swoop in to make that alive that person so that the artifact could conveniently disappear. So that's
my question.
Yeah.
That's actually a legitimate observation, Brian, because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was doing some research on this past couple of days. I was like, you know what? I bet the Smithsonian swooped in and got it, or it went to some kind of private collector potentially, because I know people that live out, I'll just say they live out west, and they actually own in their own collections giants from Lovelock Cave, or that lake bed that's out there. And they've assured me that they are taking care of it, and the Smithsonian will not get their little greasy fingers on it, is what they said. So maybe it was a private collector, or it could be, I talk a lot about the occult and stuff too. And once we get into this data tonight, we're going to see there's something different about this little mummy. And there is, I stand by my data. Okay, this is a blind target. If the data is correct, this thing is probably sought after for ritualistic purposes, I would think, too.
And everyone out there in the audience, if you don't know already, Jessica has an amazing Patreon that she's constantly adding her data to. So if you want to know what her data looks like, and I was one of those viewers where, it took me, after I met Jessica, I was like, oh, obviously I'm going to sign up to your Patreon. But then getting to see, this is the data that Jessica keeps talking about. And then, now getting to say, hey, Jessica, what does this mean? Or what that's kind of a special X factor for me, at least, and other people in our community or close friends.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That is really sweet. My camera just tried to slip right there. Okay. Yeah. Good thing I got on pants. I'm just kidding. That's so funny. I always have on pants, y'all. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that is. Thank you, Brian, so much. You have been a longtime member of my Patreon, and I appreciate you so much. And so thank you. Yes, I do like to post my data there for people who are interested in it. Not everybody's into seeing all the data. Okay, but people who are really into the remote viewing aspect of all of this, and I want to see how the process works. It's a great place to go learn and to observe some coordinate remote viewing targets over there, and you get a little extra too, because I put in all the information about the targets in there as well. So thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
And I want to say, in addition to all that information, the other photos and evidence that you collected, when you do your own research after collecting your remote viewing data, I find that I enjoy reviewing your remote viewing data about these particular targets, because sometimes, in knowing what the target is already and then seeing the data, sometimes there might be hits and associations for me, like, gee, I wonder if Jessica realizes what this, hit could possibly mean in relationship to the target.
Yes. Yeah. Because see, I'm just channeling the data, And so it takes it takes trained eyes to know exactly what that data means. And so I appreciate that big time. And so, yeah, it's a great resource for people who are getting into studying these different targets. And if you just want to see a different angle on it, you can maybe make sense of the data more than I can even make sense of it. So yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, I actually just realized I had not read the summary of what we're talking about tonight. Exactly. You gave a wonderful overview, but I'll go ahead and read this. I'm going to pull a picture of the mummy up on the screen, and so everybody can get a good dose of what we're talking about tonight. And I got to tell you guys, this is a very small little mummy of a little person. Okay, just looks like a little person. And so here's one picture. We'll just keep this up. I want to show for reference like the size. Okay, that's a full-grown man holding this little guy. Okay, and it might just look like it could be like a fetal specimen or something, like a small child or, you know, a newborn baby or something. But you guys, as we get into the contents, I guess you could say the contents or the biology, the anatomy of what this thing is, you're going to see it's not a baby. This is not a baby. And when we get into like the teeth, we get into the size of the body and everything, you'll see it's really interesting. Okay. So, and here's another picture right here. We'll just pull this up while I'm speaking. Okay. So in 1934, 2 gold miners found a small mummified specimen of a tiny human after blasting into a hidden cavern in the San Pedro Mountains. The men weren't sure if the tiny body was a small adult or the remains of a child. The body was around 14 inches in length, and that's after it was stretched out. Okay, if you stretched it out. And the miners decided that this mummy could potentially be very lucrative for them. Pedro, as he became known, was exploited and put on display by local businesses before its disappearance in the 1950s. Before his disappearance, scientific tests were done on this little guy, but the enigma of the specimen was never truly solved. And some think that he is a member of the lost tribe of a Native American Pygmy race, while others maintain the mummy was in fact the tragic infant victim of a rare congenital disorder. Now, I was tasked with this as a blind coordinate remote viewing target, and we're going to get into that data today. But like, you know, Brian, I was mentioning at the beginning of the show today, there's a reward out for this little thing, if anybody can find it. And I'm not exactly sure who's planning on paying that reward or who exactly wants it. But they say like $10,000 if you can find this thing and bring in the X-rays and all the information that goes with it.
I'd say good luck with that. Get ready to raid the Vatican's basement where the Smithsonian's vaults, and maybe that's probably, if I was to hazard a guess, I'd say it's either the Smithsonian, the Vatican, or a quote unquote private collector who's a member of one of these secret societies, who would obviously be very high ranking.
Oh yeah, that's my thought too. I mean, I am really pointed towards it's either at the Smithsonian, or it's Vatican, or just hopefully it's at a private collector's place. I guess I don't know, but it would be neat to show back up. But who knows? The whole point of this show tonight, though, is to talk about and to try to figure out exactly what this is. Was this an actual human, like a small child? Or was it something enigmatic? It's obviously enigmatic. It's an enigma, obviously. But could it have been like a troll, a fairy, a gnome? Or was it one of the Native American little people? The stories of the little people they have out there.
And it makes perfect sense. I mean, you got generations and generations of tribes all over the place. Speaking of little people, or forget just tribes, we mentioned leprechauns earlier. It's Jamie Kelly's favorite topic there. After a while, it's not just, it's a baby, and all the people, they write it off, and they spend more time trying to explain away the phenomenon than just saying, okay, well, let's just assume, maybe at face value, let's at least do the mental exercise of what if. And I'd say there's already so much. I mean, I've got these, this is another ET type artifact. There goes my screen. that I just got contacted in the desert from my friend Josh Sisler, and it's got these ET beings that, I mean, it's not like totally dissimilar to that mummy face. It doesn't look human. It looks more as close to this as it does to you or I, for the San Pedro Mummy.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's really cool. Now you just came back from the contact in the desert, right? So that had to have been pretty amazing. By the way, just for a little commercial break, I saw that you ran into two of my good friends who are a part of my team at the Meadow.
Oh yes, we were talking about you, and yes, and how you're part of the team. Yes. Shay and Christy.
Shay and Christy.
Yep. Yeah, that was excellent, and they were a big inspiration for taking the photos. Like, we have to take this for Jessica.
Oh my God, thank you. That was awesome. Shay is actually a remote viewer as well. He's very much into the sci side of life, I guess you could say. And so they are really cool. They're awesome to have out in the field with us when we go to the Meadow. We've done some weird portal experiments together. Okay, us three. And so that's pretty cool that you got to meet them.
Yeah, it's a small world, and I forget if they're going to make it out to Florida in July, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe they can come down. That'd be awesome. I'll hit them up. Okay, I'll hit them up. But nonetheless, that's a really cool artifact. I know I had Sean Bond on the show a while back, and we not only did we talk about people eating mermaids, but we also he showed a lot of his artifacts that he had from down in Mexico with ancient aliens on them and things like that. And I got to say, this little thing that we're talking about today, this mummy, could be an ancient alien. I mean, that's an option too, right?
That's what I think it is. Just like the Paracas, you got the Paracas skulls with the elongated skulls. You've got the Egyptian hieroglyphics with obviously little beings that are not human, I think it's obvious, at least according to the depictions, on the laps of humans, and then next to the humans, you've got these giants who then would be the Nephilim type Anunnaki. And so, again, this is so well documented all over the place. Just like there are giants, you've got these little people, whether they're ETs, interdimensionals, inner earth beings. What matters is that the fact that they exist totally upsets the mainstream narrative. And part of the goal of the full disclosure movement is by exposing all of these truths, we shatter the mainstream 3D matrix paradigm and get closer to the truth, which means we vibrate higher, we're all healthier, happier, wealthier, and the other side that wants to hold us back, they lose power. And that's why they spend so much time and energy, just like we did that show recently about the Lovelock giants in Lovelock Cave. Those artifacts have disappeared, and there are photos online to this day of a giant skull, and yes, this is all par for the course, but every piece of every one of these cases, I really suggest to people out there, especially those who are skeptical or have skeptical friends, don't take any of these cases in a vacuum like it's a one and done thing. Start comparing similarities around the world throughout history, and all the people are channeling, and you're going to find out a lot more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different people have so many different things to bring to the table when it comes to the disclosure and really reaching back into our history to uncover the truth about our history. And that's what I love doing over here. I know I don't just talk about Bigfoot and Dogman and the Loch Ness Monster and stuff. We talk about everything over here. And we even talked about reptilians glitching out on TV yesterday with liquid crystal masks and stuff. That was fun. That was a great show yesterday. If y'all missed that, please go back and see it. Barry came on and talked about liquid metal technology, and we talked about all sorts of just advanced technology that has pretty much been hidden from the general public, I think, for a while. And now it's kind of out there, and now we're trying to make sense of it. And And so, yeah, the veil has been lifted quite a bit on some of this, Brian. But there's so many people that have so many wonderful resources that are wonderful resources when it comes to tapping into our true history. And so that's what we're doing.
I was just recording a show of Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels of the Lifting.net, our friends and fellow presenters from last year who will be again joining us on the Galactic Main Stage this year in July, just next month. And we had both Injured Cold and then Valiant Thor come through on a session yesterday, because Christopher is a very skilled and powerful channeler, at least with some of these positive beings. And what I forget if it's Valiant Thor or Injured Cold said that the one artifact that Sean and Isha have, it's the pyramid where you lift off the cover. It's got the 2 rings in it. Apparently, those 2 rings can have the ability to, that artifact has the ability to alter your DNA. And it's not properly activated, so it's not really safe to put those rings on. But, there's validation, or at least a data point, assuming that, yes, Christopher is speaking to these Galactic Federation type beings who are announcing them as such, and his screening and his guides are strong enough to ensure that he's talking to who we believe he is. Then here are these beings confirming, yeah, those artifacts are ET in nature. They have special abilities, right? And so, when you take all these other artifacts and things at face value as being true and real, then to me, the San Pedro Mountain Mummy is just yet one piece of so many, instead of, it's some weird oddity, maybe it's an aborted baby or something. These are very different ways of approaching the problem or question, and I know where you and I and the rest of our community come from.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's just wonderful that we've got so many people that are willing to talk about it. A couple of years ago, I sat in for Dave Scott over on Spaced Out Radio one night on his show, and I was able to interview the most fantastic, it was one of the most perplexing interviews I ever done. It was wonderful, in a wonderful way, with Stephen and Evan Strong out of Australia. And they are, I guess they're archaeologists, and they're father-son duo. And they have the out of Australia theory, I believe is what it is. And they have all these wonderful artifacts that are like ancient alien technology, and a lot of them are just rocks. They're just like rocks, but it's like ancient alien technology. And so I learned pretty quickly back then through interviewing them and talking with them that, first of all, nothing is as it seems. Our history has been skewed, and I believe those gentlemen. They even said they have a moon-eyed people skull in their possession. The government and the Smithsonian have been trying to come after them for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And then she's always a part about for their out of Africa theory. Not only does that again throw everything on its head, but like the artifacts and technology being rocks or stones, there's a lot of video circulating online of what it looks almost like a cricket ball, and maybe it's got some writing on it. And then they put it in the water, and then the water starts boiling. Where they put it next to a clock, and the clock stops, and then they move it away. It's also similar properties to like red mercury, which has some wild properties. I've seen videos over and over from different groups showing strange things like red mercury not appearing in a mirror. The reflection of red mercury doesn't. You don't see it. It's weird. So, but yeah, that. Again, stone technology isn't that odd. We're seeing examples of it.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes, like, the most advanced technology is so basic. It's like it's right here in our face, and it's just a rock. But it could be it could be the key to the universe.
Sovereign Cosmic Wildman is commenting. There's fake artifacts being manufactured in Mexico and sold to fools. Absolutely. And you can thank the Ancient Alien Show for the creation of that market. Yes, true, but a lot of our people, like Mike Forrest, who's going to be on the Ancient ET Artifacts and Crystal Skulls panel at the event in July. You know, he and others, they work with people with carbon dating a lot of this stuff. And it's 3,000 to 19,000 years old. And, you know, I have friends who are psychics and sensitives where I like to think that they would be able to detect if something was fake or not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes. You're always going to have copycats and things, and people trying to pull one over and make money. It's all about controlling money, right, Brian? So
yeah, unfortunately. Money, power, and they're trying to herd us into the negative timeline, and it's going to be really hard to herd all of humanity down a negative timeline if we truly realize that we are all hybrid ET human beings from the stars, reincarnated many times. We don't just die and turn into worm food. And all of that line, we're like, you know, we came from monkeys, and there were never giants or leprechauns or fairies or other spirits, angels and demons. It's just what we see in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very powerful spell and prison mentally to trap people inside. And that's why, you know, you're going to have the Smithsonian and Vatican, who are part of the transhumanist group, wanting to hunt the bounds of the earth to remove any of this stuff from the public eye.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. An active cover-up. Okay, so there's always an active cover-up. And, man, it really makes me feel like I've been duped ever since I've been born, okay? We've been duped about our true history. And, I mean, even up to, like, the Challenger explosion that you and I talked about, things like that, which may or may not have been, you know, where people actually died in it and stuff. I mean, it's just, we're just kind of peeling away the layers of all the things that we've been lied to about, and all the history that's been actively covered up, and secret societies being included in that and all that. Okay. It's a discussion for another time, really, but we may end up touching on that a little bit with this little mummy that we're going to talk about tonight, because there's something special about it. Okay, there's definitely something special about it, and I thought, well, let's talk a little bit about the history of the little people out west and in Wyoming tonight before we get into the data, because I think that would be a great place to kind of start. And I'm going to share my screen for this one, because right before the show today, I did find a great website, and I want to give them full credit for this, because I don't want to. Well, let's see. Here we go. Let me make sure this is working. Okay, so this is what is this? The legendsofamerica.com. Okay, and let's see. Let's get this going. Hopefully you guys can see this. Hold on, let's go down here. It says it's talking about the history of the little people. Okay, and so let me read a little bit of this right here. Okay, it says oral traditions of many Native American tribes, including the Arapaho, y'all can't pronounce things very well. The Sioux, the Cheyenne, and the Crow tell of little people who stand at just about 20 inches, 3 feet tall. In some tribes, they are known as the tiny people eaters. Now, that's kind of scary a little bit. It says, but in others, they were known to have been spirits and healers, and some of them are magical, similar to leprechauns and fairies. And so let's go down here. Of course, they do talk about the little mummy that we're going to talk about today. And it says, okay, the Namiragar is what they were called out there in Wyoming. Okay, the Shoshone Indians of Wyoming called them the Namiragar. And their legends told of little people attacking them with tiny bows and poisoned arrows. Okay, they're also known to kill their own kind with a blow to the head when they became too ill to be an active part of society. And through this legend, the practice of sometimes unaliving the infirm is also a regular part for many nomadic Indian tribes. And it's really interesting, Brian, because actually
Pyramid Lake, remember Pyramid Lake, the infirm babies, they would throw their babies in Pyramid Lake.
That is right. I almost forgot about that, Brian. They sure did. And this is interesting, because when they did the scientific experiments on this little mummy back in the early 1900s, mid 1900s, they did find that it probably died from a blow to the head. So it had a terrible hole in the back of its head. Okay, it had a big hole. So it says that though many believe these little people will be the stuff of legend, several discoveries point to the contrary. This is that 14-inch tall, fully formed mummy found in 1932, and it was about 60 miles from Wyoming. It says they were looking for gold. Okay, that was running through some rock. They dynamited. I guess that's the word, dynamited. They blew it up, a section of the mountainside to get the gold. They said the small cavern, they blew a cavern out, okay, in a mountain. It says the cavern was about 15 feet long, 4 feet high, and sealed off from the outside world by a thick wall of rock. As they went inside, they saw a small pygmy-like man sitting cross-legged on a ledge. It was only about 6.5 inches tall in its seated position. It was around 14 inches tall in a standing position. The skin was brown and wrinkled, its forehead low and flat, had a flat nose, heavy-lidded eyes, and a very wide mouth with thin lips. It looked like an old man. It was so well preserved, its fingernails could still be seen in its hand. The top of its head was covered in a dark jelly-like substance and was still pliable. All right, let's see if I can go down here. It says, after continually working a rich vein, oh no, sorry. I was about to read the same thing over again. It's not moving. Okay, let's see if I can get this to go down, y'all. I'm sorry, my computer's kind of stuck. Here we go. Okay, so the prospectors took their find to Casper, Wyoming, and scientists came from all over the nation to look at the mummy. They thought it was a hoax, and so they did all these tests on it, and they thought it was pieced together taxidermy work. Now, Brian, I got to say, back when I was given the remote viewing target of those mummified aliens out of Mexico. Do you remember that? And when I did that target of those mummified aliens, those alleged aliens, it felt like it was in my data. I feel like it was like taxidermed or something is what I don't know if that's the word that we use, but it felt like something was pieced together. Okay. And that was one of the theories of what those mummified aliens were out of Mexico about a year ago or 2 years ago. But this is what they thought this was. And the anthropologist did x-rays on this, and they found that it was a man-like skeleton. And they said the mummy had been killed violently as the spine was damaged, the collarbone broken, and it had a heavy blow and smashed skull. Okay, and the top of the head exposed brain tissue and congealed blood. And they estimated that the mummy was a full-grown adult who was approximately 65 years old when he died. And he had teeth that were overly pointed, having a complete set of canines. So, Brian, all his teeth were pointed canine-like teeth. Tell me that's not scary. Okay.
He's 65 years old and is 24 inches tall, if that, and or not even, like 12 inches tall. But they can't figure out that this isn't a human, possibly. That's wild.
It's wild, super wild. And it was around 65 years old at the time of his death. Now, this is a tiny 14-inch tall human-like being with all pointy teeth. And it said that the examinations were allegedly performed by the American Museum of Natural History and certified genuine by the Anthropology Department of Harvard University. It says, however, alternate reports say that when the University of Wyoming examined the mummy, the body was found to be a deceased child. Okay, and I guess it was displayed in a sideshow for years. I know, right?
That's painful.
They had to, they had to go back and negate whatever was said to begin with. It's kind of like the recovery of like the Roswell crash, right? It's like at first it was like this cool material, and then it turned out to be it was a weather balloon, right? Like a metamaterial to a weather balloon. So they had to change it out so that it was just a deceased child. Like I said earlier today, it was displayed as in sideshows before it was purchased by a businessman named Ivan T. Goodman. And when he died in 1950, it went to Leonard Walder, a New York businessman who died in the 1980s. And its whereabouts are now unknown because it is gone missing. And now this is getting into the little people skeletons. There have been other little people skeletons that have been found. It says in Ohio, a burial ground was reportedly discovered that contained the numerous remains of a pygmy race, only about 3 feet tall. And in 1876, another ancient graveyard was documented as being discovered in Coffee County, Tennessee. Where are all my Tennessee folks out in the chat tonight? The reports indicated the cemetery covering 6 acres held the remains of thousands of dwarf-like people, Brian. That is wild. I've never heard that before. But the mummy's been lost in history.
Thousands, and we got one little mummy. Like, yeah, they documented thousands.
Yes.
I mean, come on, this isn't just one like little one-off like mummified infant.
Yeah.
That looks like a 65-year-old that's only 14 inches tall. The more you get into these,
there's
it gets.
That's wild. I mean, 6 acres of a. I felt like I passed through Coffee County if I wasn't in Coffee County recently doing some Bigfoot dogman research up in Tennessee. So anybody who lives up in Coffee County, maybe we should take a trip up there. I'm just saying. I will meet you. We ride at dawn. I'm just kidding. Like where is this place? 6 acres of a pygmy little people. Is pygmy even politically correct to say? I don't even know. I didn't even check. So,
well,
pygmy race.
Pygmies out there, we mean no offense.
We mean no offense, please. I am very ignorant to this stuff, y'all. I'm sorry. Yes, I try to be as politically correct as I can be, but sometimes I can't help it. Okay, but nonetheless, a whole cemetery with thousands of little people bodies in Coffee County, Tennessee. Okay, well, I don't know. They're saying this is a 65-year-old, the equivalent of a 65-year-old human with pointed teeth. Okay, so, all right, well, okay, I guess let's get into the data maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because we can sit around and talk about what we think this is, and what they said it is. But I think the data is really interesting, Brian. Okay, so let's just get into that. And like I said, if anybody is interested in seeing this data, if you're interested in seeing it, go to my Patreon, y'all. Thank you to all my members. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman, thank you. He says, pygmy supposedly is an outmoded word, but we can still bring it back. We can bring it back. There's no need to bring it back if we don't have to. I like the little people term, actually, too. So we'll go with that. Okay. All right. Well, you remember how I said something about there would be a vested interest maybe in like a secret society, maybe wanting this thing, okay, wanting this little mummy. I've talked with past guests, like my friend Bryce came on the show, and with Esoteric Atlanta, and we've talked about how occultists and secret societies will take the body parts of magicians or someone who had special abilities, and they will use those within their rituals. Okay.
Anima Skull and Bones at Yale.
Yes. Okay. Well, right off the bat, thank you to the data. Yes, Judy, the data. Right off the bat, this session of this remote viewing session went into an oath and a ritual. Okay, some sort of oath and a ritual. Okay, and I guess I'll go ahead and get into like the sensory data first. We'll talk about that a little bit, and I'll go through the first 3 stages, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so some of my sensory data with this target. This is what I'm sensing when I went into this session. I was given a set of coordinates, and that's all I had were some numbers to the audience, in case y'all are wondering. And so the sensory data is responsive, aware, solid, apart, solo, solemn, natural, bombard, embarked, and singular. Now, I did pick up on a lot of solo and singular data. So maybe it's just, it's just this one. Maybe that means that there's just one mummy or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but something singular. My analytic overlay, I did immediately pick up on like an oath or a ritual. I even wrote down a response, like there's some kind of response to whatever this is. So I don't know what that has to do with it, but I wrote down an oath, a ritual, and a deity or a deity. Okay, I actually wrote that, and I wrote down pay homage, like paying homage to a deity or a ritual of some sort. Okay, so that's right off the bat. That was what was the first thing, some of the first stuff I wrote down for the session. I also wrote down earth, nature, and I got a lot of data involving fringe theory, and just fringe. And as we get throughout the stage 4 data, there's more fringe. Okay, so I don't even know what a fringe theory is, other than like it's kind of enigmatic, something that people don't talk about. It's not common, right? Like being on the fringe would be something that's like, I don't want to say elaborate or like,
I'd say it's the paranormal version of the conspiracy theory is a fringe theory. So where some people would say, oh, it was Mothman who flew over our car at the drive-in movie theater. Other people would say, well, it was just a giant stork and you're imagining things, right? So the fringe explanation is, no, they're really little people. Maybe they're inner earth. Maybe they're ETs. They're not human. That'd be considered.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. You're very eloquent in the way you described that. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so fringe theory, and so this is really cool because some of the next data that I wrote down are the analytic overlay. I wrote down nature. This is right under fringe theory. I wrote down nature, spirit, fairy, and fairy tale. That was some of my data as well.
Wow, this is some really good hits. I mean, it sounds like his body has been taken to be used in rituals by a secret society, and they've got chants and callbacks, and they're worshiping whatever deity that they are Luciferians and bow down to. And meanwhile, this is like a fairy fae being of like the old school fairy tales.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of what I took from this too. After analyzing the data, I'm like, well, I think maybe this is something that got sought after by a secret society, and they're using it for ritualistic purposes today, because they know the true nature of it, especially after it was examined by Harvard University. I mean, who's at Harvard? Didn't you say the Skull and Bones is at Harvard?
Actually, Skull and Bones is at Yale, but I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't. Just like Yale, the Harvard, they've got the same connection, just a different chapter.
Yes. I'm sure some of our politicians graduated from Yale too. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Listen, I worked in politics my entire life pretty much. Okay. And before I went public being a big funder, y'all. Okay. So I know how it works. There's some really good politicians out there too. Okay. They're not all secret, secretly doing occult stuff. I don't think. Okay, not all of them, but anyways, they can't all be doing it. I don't think. But anyways, okay. So fairy tale was the last thing I mentioned, right? And
yes.
So I wrote down custom, and customary are part of my data. And then I literally heard what sounded like a person's voice saying "aho, aho."
Aho, that's native.
I think it's Native American. I wrote down Native American customs.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I heard aho, and Jamie's in the chat. Jamie, who's has a fear of little people. One of my best friends, Whitney, did too. By the way, Jamie. Okay, so don't feel bad. But so Jamie was there with us that night up in North Georgia. We were bigfooting. She went bigfooting with me. What's up, Jamie? And the Dogfoot clan or tribe that we called ourselves that night. She heard a recording that our friend Matthew Delph had us listen to, and it had to do with the skinwalker incident that he had, potential skinwalker actually. And he, as he was seeing some kind of like dog or something that ran in front of his car, something very odd, his phone rang and there was a message on it. He answered the phone and he listened to the voicemail. And as that thing was crossing in front of him, and it was a voice of like a Native American voice that said, "Aho." And that's kind of like what I heard when I was doing this target. Okay, so I think I'm not saying there's a connection to that, but it's the same. It sounded like the same voice that I heard on that recording that he let us listen to that night while we were out.
I think aho is kind of like a high vibration greetings or hail, you know.
Yes.
And thank you to Emlove and Larry
and Skip.
Yeah.
Yes, I just saw that. Thank
Oh,
y'all
and
so
Skip
much.
it's that one as well. Wow.
Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
guys so much for the support. This is a quick commercial break, y'all. Thank you for the super stickers. Larry Sharp, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Thank you for that. And Margaret, thank you so much for that too. It was so great meeting you at the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot conference and hanging out with you. Cheers to little people. That's right. Cheers. Thank you so much, Margaret. I appreciate you. And Skip, you're late, but I forgive you. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Thank you for your support as well. That's very kind of you as well. Thank you guys so much for all your support here. Okay. All right. Let me get back into the data. So I've definitely picked up on a Native American connection to whatever this target is at this point. This is still a blind target. I don't know what this is, but I'm picking up on a Native American term, a voice, something in a dialect, and it sounded. I wrote down aho or something like that is what I heard, and I wrote down Native American customs, but then I wrote a question mark beside it. But Native American customs, and I heard one and done is what I heard. Singularity, and something about being at one with nature. Okay, and then I just drew what I thought. I thought I was drawing like a tree. I guess it looked like a tree with like a hole in the bottom or something, like almost like something like a fairy tree would look like. Okay, or like my niece has a fairy tree, or she like does like little fairy houses in their yard, and they have like little doors on their tree, like a little fairy door on the bottom of some of the trees, and that's kind of like what I drew, which is weird. I'll show the audience what the drawing looks like. I didn't think about that until just now.
It looks like the Keebler Elves treehouse entrance.
It does. Okay, that kind of does. I didn't think about that until just now. But it kind of does. But that's my first 3 stages of this data, and I think that's pretty cool because from what we're picking up so far is there's ritualistic, maybe occult stuff going on here, with some people being. I mean, I wrote oath, ritual, deity, and pay homage. Okay, and so this is an ancient little guy. I think it's old. It's very old. If they had to like blast out the wall of a cave to get to it, there's no other way to get to this thing, and it was, mummified. Okay, when I hear mummified, I think of like the ancient Egyptians. And guess what? We haven't gotten there yet, but they may be included in the data tonight, Brian. The ancient Egyptians.
Really?
And so I wanted to kind of talk about that for a second, because we really don't know the true history of this land that we live on. Okay, we do know through past shows and all the research we've done, the remote viewing targets, and talking about ancient Egyptian settlements being covered up by man-made lakes, documented. We know that there were different civilizations here that are not really included in our history books.
The burial mounds that a lot of people, such as the Journey to Truth guys, have been talking a lot about that, like the Hokia burial mounds, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's all the perhaps pyramids found, the underground cavern systems, what was found in the Grand Canyon, the whole Wingmakers thing. And so there's a lot of esoteric occult hidden in America for sure, all over the land. And despite the best efforts of the other side to erase this history, they have failed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know what? I just had the thought, Brian, if there are people taking like bodies of potential leprechauns, dwarves, little people, the fae, whatever's out there, giants as well. If they're doing that and using them for occult purposes, then I was going to say they're probably taking those giant bones. Maybe that's where a lot of these giant skeletons have gone, is like towards occult practices and stuff. Maybe that's where all the skeletons are. Their bones have been ground up. They're using them for occult rituals and stuff.
It's always a possibility. It's hard to underestimate the depravity and the lengths these people will go to try to cast a spell that they think will get them money, fame, fortune, power. But none of that works. It always backfires.
It does. It does. It does. Well, I know we're kind of calling it all out tonight, and so let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We got more. We got a lot more data, y'all. Okay, so I was picking up on some kind of process. Maybe that's like the occult process, or I don't know. I just wrote down process, and I started. Okay, so here's where the data goes underground. Okay, so the data ended up going into. I was somewhere dark, deep, hollow. I wrote down hollow cavity, Earth's crust. That was some of my analytic overlay. But aesthetically, where I thought I was inner. I wrote inner Earth.
Yeah, that's it. It sounds inner Earth.
Yeah, I wrote down inner Earth, caverns, and cave. Rocks and dirt were some of my tangibles. And I actually wrote down I wrote filament and firmament is what I wrote down too. So those are a couple words I wrote down for my analytic overlay. And let's go back. I picked up on more ritualistic data after that. So like I'm in this, what I'm assuming is like inner Earth, an inner Earth environment, caverns and caves, rocks and dirt. I wrote down reverence and ritualistic. Okay, ritualistic again. And then I wrote down rituals again. Okay, so we got more ritualistic stuff. And then I wrote down ancient Egypt, Egyptian, and burials. And it's a mummy, and it's a freaking mummy. Okay, but does this mean that I'm just okay, here's the thing. It's just remote viewing data, right? So can we interpret this as like this could be something that was Egyptian? Or is it just that I'm picking up on the a mummified body, but I didn't write that down? I just wrote down ancient Egypt and burial.
Definitely the mummified body part. But then I wouldn't be surprised if these beings might also have surfaced in ancient Egypt, and they might be some of the ones that are appearing in the hieroglyphics as little beings perched on the lap of what are probably human beings, and who are then likewise dwarfed. They're all dwarfed by like the giant, being standing next to them.
Yeah. Okay. I just find this all fascinating, super fascinating, and I'm like, oh man, now I'm all suspicious that the ancient Egyptians might have been in Wyoming, too, reading that. But I mean,
that's why the supposed findings in the Grand Canyon, a lot of those had Egyptian type motifs in the artifacts that were supposedly recovered from that site. And so I think to answer your question, I think, yes, there were those who had experienced the ancient Egyptian culture had made it over here to the U.S. And, if you go by the theories that ETs have been with us all along, then now people don't have to be horseback, walking, or a boat to get around. There's a lot faster options.
Oh, yeah. M13 says cat mummies. Yes, I think anything could be mummified. Okay, so anything could be mummified. Now this little object that we're talking about today. Now I say object, but it was actually a little person. Okay, so it's not just a specimen. Let me pull a picture of it up so we can kind of see it as we're talking tonight. I should have done this already. Poor thing. Okay, even though it's not okay. So according to the scientists, it is not a baby. Okay, it's not a baby. However, there was another little mummy found. Can't remember its name. It's here somewhere. But it was a female. And they said that actually was a baby. It was a little child. That it looked similar to this, but it was dated as being a child, I think. And it might have been born with no brain or something, I think.
Those hands are way too developed to be a baby. Look at the veins on those hands.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No baby is veined up like that.
No baby's born with pointed teeth either. A mouthful.
Nose.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah. Just the pointed teeth alone are the stuff of nightmares. I'm just saying. Even though I'm sure this is a nice. It might have been a nice person. I don't know, but I think of that lady. Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Legion. There's this old lady with like pointed teeth in that movie. She scales a wall in the diner.
Yeah. I saw that scene.
Yeah.
Yes, take her out.
Yeah, that's a crazy movie, y'all. If you hadn't seen Legion, y'all should go watch it. Okay, it's pretty good. Okay, so let's go to page. Okay, this is my another page. We're almost done with the data. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, I kept hearing on the fringe again, so I wrote that down. So on the fringe is in my data again, Brian. So something that's on the fringe. I actually wrote down the word tested, and on the fringe. I was picking up on something that was stacked on top of something else. So I don't know. I drew a weird little picture, and
I mean, here it is. It's sitting on top of something else, and in
it is
the way the guy is holding, in the other photos where the guy's holding it under the glass, it's sitting on top of that thing. So
it could be that. It could be. I drew a little picture too because I was seeing what looked like. I'll show you. It looks like a couple of L's, kind of. Wait, where is it? If you can see that, and it actually kind of looks like his hands or his legs like being crossed. Maybe that's what
exactly.
I'm saying.
That could be exactly. He's kind of like L onto himself.
Yeah. I was just trying to make sense of what I was seeing and what I was sensing right there. But I wrote stacked on top of something that was neat and organized. I did write down burial ground is in my data on here as well. So a burial ground. I mean, there might have been more. If this is an actual burial ground, there could be more. It might not have just been that one. Maybe that's just one that was like sitting out, but who's to say? I'm sure the Smithsonian or somebody had gone in there and found out where they found this thing and went and they cleaned them out. Okay, probably. But anyways, I did hear, after I wrote down burial ground, at some point I did hear a voice say, do not disturb. Do not disturb. And then I was picking up on sacred land and something that was sacred and deep underground. I actually wrote deep underground military base. That's what I wrote down. But it was something under the mountain. I mean, I literally wrote I like drew like little like mountains and I pointed down. So it was like something deep underground underneath the mountain is what I wrote down. And I kind of ended the session right there because I was like, I don't know what the heck this is. Okay. But anyways, it was something sacred in the mountains. It's pretty much on target there.
Yeah, and I think there's Cheyenne Mountain underground military base, which is depicted in the Stargate series. Apparently, that is like one of the bottom levels of Cheyenne Mountain. So that is I believe in Wyoming, and so that'd be like another synchronicity or hit with your data.
Oh yeah,
military base.
It does look like there's some deep underground military bases in Wyoming. According to this map, this is supposed to be a map of, it says inner Earth access. Okay. But let's see, do we have any other? That's inner Earth access. I don't know if I thought that was my deep underground military base. Let me see if there's any missing people up that way. Oh, absolutely. Missing persons out that way. I mean, they say that some of the tribes have called the little people eaters. Like they would actually, this is the ley line map, of course, out that way, but they eat humans. They would eat humans. My goodness. Okay, but that doesn't have a whole lot to do with this target, but still with their sharp little teeth, they're obviously carnivorous. They're meat eaters if they've got sharp teeth. They have a mouthful of canines is how they described it.
It sounds like Leprechaun.
Leprechaun.
Horror series.
It does. It does. It sounds like a leprechaun, and so I don't know. I mean, it 100% looks like. First of all, I think this is a full-grown adult. Okay, I would say if there is evidence of there being little people, I think this is some of the evidence right here, and maybe that's why it's missing today because this is the real deal. I think this is a real deal, Brian. When it comes to that.
I totally do. I mean, looking at the veins on that mummy's hands, they're just so well developed. I mean, they're more developed than my veins. Like little children, they don't have veiny developed hands. Like they've lived a long and relatively rough life. That the sense is that mummy is of a being that's older and not younger.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's Caleb. Caleb's in here now. Caleb is Cheyenne, actually, and he's talking about little people and inner Earth. Okay. And well, I did say inner Earth, right? And that was in the data. Okay. And I just showed that map. I was disappointed because I was looking for the deep underground military base map. However, inner Earth was actually in my data. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little slow sometimes. Okay. Let's go back and look at this map because there are entrances according to this map. There's entrances to inner Earth access right there. Wow. That's wild. Okay. So it came from inner Earth.
This may be the Phil Schneider map, who this is a map that he may have died for because he was assassinated in 1993 as he was doing the UFO conference circuit, which back then was, much less of a thing than it is now and much less socially acceptable. And I think it was a couple in between conferences where he was going to show this map off. At least a variation of it was when he was taken out.
Oh gosh, that is really sad. Very sad. But you know what? We're going to keep it. We're going to keep this circulating, and it's important. If he died for this, for the disclosure that he was putting out, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep putting it out there because this is obviously important, and we need to be aware of this. And all the topics that we cover here on this channel, they all seem to just start interconnecting at some point. I've been doing this for long enough. I've been on air talking about Bigfoot and Dogman and little people and sea monsters for long enough to where we're connecting a lot of dots, including missing persons cases and whatever else we got going, whatever else we talk about over here, reptilian shapeshifters and all the technology behind it, and Antarctica and everything. It's all connected in some kind of way. A lot of it is. And in the first wave of people that talked about it, a lot of them aren't here anymore, Brian.
Yeah. Well, because we're all demonstrating how rich and how vast reality is and multidimensional. And then again, you can't trap people in a box if we know that we're immortal, God-sourced, linked beings that have star family and inner Earth. Inner Earth, I mean, beyond ETs, inner Earth is a whole another thing. And then they are very much connected. Our friend Arkeem Ra, his alter Edward Hughes from a parallel, more positive Earth, says that in their timeline, inner Earth is much more widely known about. They still don't have people from the surface just going down to inner Earth. Apparently they're super protective down there. Even in a parallel positive Earth 4.5 years from now, they still do not allow any imagery to reach the surface of inner Earth because they don't want to give people any imagery to remote view and possibly teleport in or portal in to mess with inner Earth. And then down there, in addition to these probably more fairy or known type beings, you also have in inner Earth, I believe they're either called the Chinwei or the Chetwei, but those are the ant people. And then those two play a very prominent role in native histories where there have been times of earthquakes or fires or floods or meteor storms or whatever. And the ant people will take, maybe it was a Hopi, I forget which tribes, down below the surface to survive.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, Caleb says those access points all correlate with the aquifer. It all connects together. I was just talking with Barry yesterday. Barry Littleton had given me the missing 411 clusters map, or the whereabouts of where all those people went that were missing out of those clusters with missing 411. David Politis' research and just all the people out of our national parks. And speaking of aquifer, okay, there's actually in my data for where these people are going, it dealt with submarines and like water systems like underneath the earth that are like going. I mean, it's kind of similar to like what we've heard about with like I hate to say the Epstein case, where they were actually saying they were taking submarines to transport people onto the island and things like that. But that's similar to the kind of stuff that was in my data for all these missing people, and they're utilizing underground water systems and stuff to transport people down there.
Long Beach apparently is connected up with this underground tunnel network, and maybe it might even run to some extent under Pyramid Lake area, or might connect up with Pyramid Lake, and then also out to where I am further east. Yeah.
Wait, Brian, didn't we talk about how at Pyramid Lake it's connected to like Lake Tahoe?
Yeah.
And when people would they would drown in Lake Tahoe, they'd end up in Pyramid Lake, or vice versa.
I think it's people who have drowned in Pyramid Lake have washed up in Lake Tahoe, I believe is what it is. And so apparently there is some huge underground aquifer system that connects the two. But then not only that, there's like these subtype systems, like maybe they're all related, right? I don't. They're probably like such as at like Newport Beach or Long Beach, the ports of Los Angeles. People testified to there may, and there's also imagery of like some kind of 6 mile weird, almost like symmetrical shelf that was found in the Pacific just off that coastline there. And then it's been erased from Google Maps.
Oh, I've been seeing that. Google Maps has been doing their due diligence of cleaning up any kind of secret things we're not supposed to see. I've been hearing about that. Yeah. Man, there's no telling what all's been covered up. First time that I had like a remote viewing target or like a topic we were talking about that had been completely erased off the map was Mel's Hole. Mel's Hole, you can't find it on a map. It's been blurred out. And both of Mel's holes, he's got 2, or he had 2. But yeah, they do that. So it's a big network of tech companies and I don't know, secret societies, Brian, all that stuff. It's all connected.
No, I mean, exactly. You got secret societies, tech companies with the breakaway space civilizations. You got ICC, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, who the space Germans apparently really disdain. They call the ICC the bankers in space. This is according to John Whitberg, who survived like the Montauk Project and other secret space programs. And then in addition to the corporate guy, then you got the government military guys, right? And then you got the cult guys. And they're all mixed together. They all know what's up. And then meanwhile, us normies, it's kind of like watching the movie series Men in Black. You got some people, they're in the know, and wow, is that wild and crazy. And then the vast majority of the population is asleep. And we're utilizing artifacts like this to help break people out of the 3D matrix thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just glad that some of the information about these little people and the artifacts that we are aware of, we're able to know about them so that we can look into them a little bit more. Because, of course, a lot of this is just kind of covered up. And, coming from a Bigfoot field researcher standpoint, most people that come forward with like Bigfoot sightings, they're scared to do it because we look like we're crazy. They make everybody look nuts, and the media's in on it big time because they want us to look like a bunch of country bumpkins that nobody takes seriously.
And just like Sasquatch gets the laugh factor, so do trolls and fairies and pygmy beings. But yet you see the X-rays, that you posted up on the screen there, and that looks pretty real to me. And then the fact that 65 years old, or approximately, at least from the veins and stuff, the development of the body. I'm just tired of arguing with all the people like, oh, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. After a while, it's just like people really need to just embrace that our history is nothing like what we're told.
Yeah.
Break free of the paradigm and then educate yourself if you can.
Watch the Cryptid Huntress channel. Send them my way. Well,
exactly. Your information is very much. This is all in line with the assumption. This breaks the matrix.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Also, I wanted to say I've got my Cryptid Huntress sticker on my phone.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you. You've got some more stuff headed your way too. You are part of the VIP Patreon.
There you go. But I want you to save that. Save your resources for yourself. Yeah. But you sent me plenty of swag, and I've used it to wonderful effect.
Oh yeah.
I just want to, yeah. I know how much effort it takes. Like you hand mail your supporters, like that's dedication. So I just want to say thank you. And you don't have to do that, at least in my case. I want to save you the bandwidth. I know how busy.
Oh no. I'll still send you some Cryptid Hunter stuff, even if it's a Karen Bigfoot pin or something that's pink. I know you don't wear pink. I know.
Actually, I was wearing my Karen Bigfoot pin for a while. It fell off my one jacket, but I was rocking it because my baby daughter was born around then.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and when Jaden looks
I'll send you some extras in. If you lost it, I'm gonna send you more.
No worries. But Jaden, he says when he looks at her aura is like super bright pink, like that.
Oh.
Kind of pinker than this, and really bright. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I can't wait to meet her. I hope she's at the conference.
She will be.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm so excited. It's going to be great. I think did Steve say that was, look at all the ribs on that cat x-ray? That's not a cat. This is supposed to be the little person, y'all.
Yeah, that doesn't look like a typical human skeletal structure, right? Like it's got way more ribs. It looks more like E.T. phone home than it does Elliot.
It looks more like a human skeleton than the mummies out of Mexico.
Yeah, they've got it from Mexico, Caracas, like Peru and Bolivia, I think, and they got different ones. But yeah, like it's actually the elongated skulls.
Oh yeah, those ones. Yes, we there's so much out there, y'all, and I mean they did these scientific experiments back in the mid 1900s. Okay, and I mean if you guys can hunt this thing down, how about this? If you are in a secret society and you know where this thing is, you might can get $10,000 for it right now. Okay, I'm just saying.
And we can group sources. Hey, all you up and coming and experienced remote viewers, maybe you can add the current whereabouts of the San Pedro Mountain Mummy to your blind target list so that it'll, pop up somewhere in there, randomly, and maybe you'll get the data of, where this is right now.
Yes, exactly. Gosh, we have so many great comments in the chat today. Let's see. Leah said she's got trolls at her house. Nice ones who get energy from the environment. One of them made me his pet. You're a pet, Leah. Oh my gosh. Bert, he follows me around on my shoulder. What other crazy stuff happens? Oh my gosh, that's wild. I love that though. I think that's really neat. Brian, I actually, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I have a really fantastic guest coming on the show. And he's actually had an encounter with an elf, a real elf. And he said it changed his life. It's not the only thing we're going to be talking about. But he said that the first thing that he ever encountered was an elf. And people didn't believe him. It was out. By the way, Bigfoot Dwarfs in the chat in L.A. He said it happened in L.A. And he said that it's been rough.
Was it a positive elf? I mean, when Leah, something trolling you and taking you over and sitting on your shoulder, you might want to consider some psychic, spiritual, or energetic work to cleanse and assert your sovereignty and not let any such being make you its pet, unless you jokingly say that it was like it's really your friend and jokingly a pet, but not like a real pet, obviously.
Yes, I know. It's like with my dog. Sometimes I feel like my dog thinks that I'm her. That like she owns me. I have to put her in her place. Okay.
Yeah, Winnie thinks I'm her
dominance. Okay.
Yeah, Winnie just wants me to give her bacon.
I know. I bet you give her plenty of bacon though. I guarantee it. Yeah, I know she's a great dog. Oh my gosh, I love her. I got to meet. I've met Winnie. She was actually at the Las Vegas Spaced Out Radio event that we did last year. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great to see Dave Scott there too, among other people.
Dave's awesome.
Yeah.
I love me some Dave. Yes. Yeah, the elf like Dungeons and Dragons. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna let my guest tell the story. Okay. And but he said that he was, I think he was may have been leaving work one night and an elf walked out in front of him. And it's a really fantastic story. But what's gonna get the audience is like he has a long history of skinwalkers and stuff in his family. Okay, so it's gonna be a really good show, y'all. Don't miss it. A week from Saturday, we'll be here.
He's Native American.
No, he's South American actually, or Central American.
Okay, because these might be. Are these was his elf encounter in South America? Or was
Yes.
It okay.
No, the elf was in L.A. and then his family's from, I think it's South America. I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that episode.
Oh yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially after we discuss this, and maybe that's kind of how I got the inspiration to go public with this one today. It was because of that conversation that I had with him this week, and so I like to set the tone, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. I like to kind of set the tone for what we're going to talk about in the future, and kind of start connecting dots a little better. You know, it helps to connect the dots and to bring the topics like full circle, and to get a better understanding of it.
Do you have Cocopelli? I mean, speaking of elves and the indigenous or Latin American folks, Cocopelli is very elf-like as well. It'd be great if you added that to your blind, target pile.
Yes.
Have you ever looked into Cocopelli?
No, I know what Coco. Okay, so
it's like a flute playing, like elven-looking thing that's throughout the Southwest. It's kind of a
yes. I used to have a lot of Coco. I called it Coco Capelli. It was jewelry. Okay, like I don't know if it was Zuni. It might have been Zuni actually. And I used to, because I in my shop, War Woman Goods, I sell a lot of Native American handmade jewelry, like vintage jewelry and stuff. And I used to oftentimes get Coco Pelli or Coco Capelli pendants and bracelets. I have some in the shop right now. If you guys want some beautiful, I have a beautiful old turquoise bracelet and a ring, maybe a necklace. I don't know, but it's in there. But I have not. No, I've never been given a target of that before. I don't think, but that's really interesting to look into.
Yeah, I'll make it a point out my sources. All the million questions I have, as I try to remember when I'm speaking to like a being via Christopher Jacobs, like Valiant Thor or Injured Cold. It's not every day you're going to get to speak with those people.
Yes, that's right. Brandon said, "I'm 6'5". I see dwarves all the time."
Yeah.
Is that a short joke? That's a tall joke. It's a tall and short joke. That's funny. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's see. What else do we have to talk about? Okay, this has just been really fantastic. I'm super excited about this target today because I think that this is a great piece of, first of all, history right here. I don't know where it sits today, other than the data from the remote viewing session would kind of suggests that this is probably used in some sort of ritual practices today. I mean, you could also kind of turn it around and say, well, maybe this was used a long time ago in some kind of ancient ritual. Okay, we don't know exactly how old this thing is. Okay, so maybe it was used before, but I tend to think that maybe it's like today they're using it as some sort of
modern day ceremonies and rituals. Yeah, it has that kind of feel like the way Geronimo's skull is apparently still being abused and exploited by the skull and bones type people.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. That's what I think. They're probably using it today. It's in some kind of underground. I wrote down deep underground military base. That doesn't mean that has anything to do with this, but maybe it's some kind of secret society that does rituals outside or in a cave somewhere. Maybe
that, and maybe it seems like a lot of these sacred sites and places where you're going to find artifacts and bodies of these cryptids and paranormal might be along like ley lines in special places, and then these negative secret societies tend to be attracted to these places of power, and then they corrupt them. And so and also deep underground military bases, a lot of times they seem to be next to these places of power, the national parks and forests, where there are apparently natural portals and ley lines and all of that. And where you have all that, you're going to get a higher concentration of cryptids, whether they're little people, ETs, orbs, dogmen, whatever, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Yes. I mean, I do. I'm going to say the majority of my Bigfoot research, a lot of it is in national and state parks. Okay. And there are places of power there. There's also deep underground military bases at a lot of those locations. And and I've stumbled across them.
And that's no coincidence. The deep underground bases are there to maybe deal with if there are cryptids coming out of portals. It'd be probably handy to have some military presence nearby. That's at least the least sinister, reason. I hope that everyone watching this, I want to encourage you again to join us at the conference next month. And Jessica already put up her code. Not only do you get 17% off your admissions passes, but then Jessica will receive 70% of all ticket sales used with her discount code. So not only do you get a discounted pass, but this is also a way to help support your favorite remote viewer, your Cryptid Huntress content creator.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Y'all use that code, please. Y'all are coming for sure. That'd be awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Yep. Yeah. Full Disclosure Movement.org is the website for the conference series. And if you want to stay up to date on the platform we're about to launch, the app, the Full Disclosure Movement cryptocurrency, eventually sacred site tours, like we're looking at maybe planning one as soon as the end of next year to do a sacred site cruise up the Egyptian Nile to hit up some of the places of power. Nice. Yeah, and we
speaking of places of power, yeah. Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
They're able to telepathically connect with these temple beings and guardians, and help be a two-way communicate or facilitate two-way communication with people going on these tours. We might have Trevor Grassi with us, who has been doing some cutting-edge gorilla Egyptology and is personal friends with a CAFA research project group who just found all that stuff underneath the pyramids. And that's another target I hope you do, Jessica.
Yeah.
If you do that and get the data, then I would love to link you up with perhaps Trevor Grassi and his team. That'd be amazing.
I already did, though. I did remote viewing of that.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I have a bunch of data from that, actually. Yeah. This past year, at some point, I believe Barry came on the show with me, and we had done, I had at least one target of what's underneath the pyramid. I think I've done several different targets throughout the past year or two of things that are under, like who built the Great Pyramid of Giza and who built the pyramids, and then what's underneath the pyramid. Like
you got to do a whole series and bundle it, and then go for you and Ben will. I'm sure you've always wanted to go to Egypt.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would love to go to Egypt for sure. That's on my bucket list.
Everyone who participates with our network, especially presenters and folks who participate with us to the extent you do, Jessica, we'll make sure there are lots of perks thrown in. Discounts and maybe even totally complimentary trips as we move forward into the future. Because we're going into the abundance timeline finally.
I better get my passport ready. I'm just saying.
Yep,
yeah.
Get your passport ready. Yes.
Yeah, right. Man, I better start working on that today. Okay. But wow, that's fantastic. I can't wait to talk to those guys and exchange. I mean, even just to hand over some data and see what they think and talk about it, and maybe give some links to my shows that I did. Yeah, that would be great.
A book should come out of that.
Yeah, man, that would be so cool. Man, we got a lot of stuff going on. And also Magical Journey podcast is asking, I did remote viewing training in the same place as Trey had done. Yes, Trey and I are on the same team. And Trey was on Jimmy Church's show last night, I believe. Fade to Black or something like that. He was on with him last night, and so I'm sure a lot of people got to see Trey last night. And yeah, that's my meadow team, the team that we go out to the meadow. And I jumped in that chat last night, and I had so many people that were like, "Where's the meadow? Are you gonna tell me?" I was like, "No, I can't tell you. Sorry.
It's too dangerous. You can die."
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Ooh, I got to stand in a spot where there's a portal that I can't see, get highly radiated. Like, I don't know. It's not a very good cost benefit analysis.
No. Yeah, you got to be careful with stuff like that. And we do have two teammates who have passed away after walking into the portal out there. So
Shay and Christy were telling me a bit more about that, and that the third member is trying to fight it and overcome.
We have more than that, actually. There's more people that are affected by it, let's just say, and I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah. The stuff that we do when you're out in the field and you're dealing with such high strangeness like we deal with, it is very dangerous, y'all. It's very dangerous, Brian. And it's not just for anybody to go out there. It's just dangerous. I don't think any of us realized how dangerous it actually was until things like that started happening to us out there.
And while you're doing potentially dangerous work, you want to, be in high vibration and avoid that spirit of fear. So that sounds extra challenging.
Yes. So we're out there dealing with radiation, and I'm chasing dogmen and Bigfoot and stalking. I'm stalking the monsters. They should be stalking us, right?
Don't want you to find it, and you could be, stalking the monsters on top of a deep underground military base, and they're just like trapdoor spiders waiting to see if there's an opportunity to spring out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What's interesting is that whenever we can see each other in person, we can talk about more stuff than we even talk about on here. So I'm sure Shay and Christy probably, I bet y'all had a great conversation.
Yeah, we did. There's stuff that you don't want to talk about too much online. You never know who's listening.
You never know. It's best to do it, to be face to face, y'all. Face to face. We can talk. That's why it's so important for y'all to come to these conferences with us and stuff, and to come out and see us in person, because we can really be a lot more candid with some of the things. I'm very candid with all of my disclosure, all the stuff I talk about. And it took me a while to open up fully. Okay, it did a little bit when it comes to this stuff, because, as far as a disclosure aspect to what I do, I came in with people telling me to kind of watch what I say, and like warning me that if I said the wrong thing, people are going to turn against. Well, people turned against me no matter what. No matter what I say.
You're like a dog shakes fleas, and you're by far the better for it. And look at where you are now, and look at where all those limited hangout people are now.
Oh my gosh, you said it, not me. I'm not going to go there.
I'll happily say it. And that's the big reason why we go to the conference series. Is I got tired of seeing the limited hangout platforms, and certain conferences, even the one I just came back from. Some people, you talked about secret space programs, time travel, Bigfoot. If you would mention the San Pedro Mountain, Mummy here.
Our mummy friend.
Yeah, some people they're all fine with it, but other people will eyeball you, and they'll say you're making us look bad. You're not scientific enough. And to me, it's very limited disclosure. That's not full disclosure.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that comment. That's funny. No wonder Bigfoot researchers are cuckoo.
On the radio.
You got to be a little crazy to do what I do. You got to be a little crazy. And I'm sure anybody in this chat that does what I do they'll tell you the same thing. Okay, we're all a little bit crazy, but you know what? I weigh the odds, and it's too much fun, y'all. It's too much fun. What I do is too much fun, and I'm not scared of pretty much anything at this point. And like I was saying, is like, well, I got warned to like be careful what I say, and there comes a point to where you kind of got to put your foot down and be like, well, am I going to really care about what other people think? I'd rather do something and talk about it, and then ask forgiveness, than if I did something. And I'm just saying, like, I'd rather just do it, because people are going to judge you no matter what.
Exactly.
They're always going to judge you.
Yeah, and never dim your light to please others.
Please don't. Yes. If y'all want to learn anything at all from me and my journey, don't dim your light to make other people feel better. Just don't. Just go out there like a bull in a china shop. That's what I do. That's what Brian does, right, Brian?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I don't know if yours even as bad as I am.
No, I have a reputation for flipping tables over, but that's okay.
You flip tables.
Yeah, you're going to try to limit and hang out us. You're going to try to push certain solutions that are not, in line with humanity's interests. I'll do my best to call you out. And if I'm wrong, I will do a full retraction and apologize. But, we'll see when we get there. Thank you to Maureen for pointing out the website for the conference is fulldisclosuremovement.org. And when you click on buy tickets, you'll be able to then enter in the discount code from Jessica here. And that's only not even a month and a half out. And rooms are also booking out, and all that information to get your discounted group rate rooms are also likewise on the website there. Yeah.
Yeah, fulldisclosuremovement.org. Here's my discount code. You guys use it. I said it in the beginning of the show, and it's been in the chat tonight. And let's pull up your website before we go tonight. Okay. This has been a really fun show, by the way, Brian. I want to thank you so much for being here and for hanging out with me. I know, look, I'm no expert on the mummy, okay, or even the little people, but it's really fun to talk about. And I know we always make it work, don't we, Brian? We always make it work.
We do. You want me to share my screen?
No, I can share. You can share yours if you want, or I can share mine. Either way, if you want to, you go ahead and share yours.
Yeah,
I've got it on mine too, though.
I've got it.
Yeah, you're on it.
Right here, feel free to leave your name and email to keep in touch, because then you'll get the latest on the platform, cryptocurrency, an app, and everything else we're launching. But right here, we've got our web admin Jennifer Nunez has been doing a lot of work on the website to also link in the fact that in addition to the conference, we're launching a whole network, which is going to have a lot of bells and whistles, and we're going to be discussing a lot of that more at the conference next month. In terms of our lineup, we're very strong on secret space program, direct ET contact, breakaway civilizations, people remote viewing, people have recall, such as Jean-Charles Moyen of some of these programs. Laura Eisenhower, whose great-grandfather Ike tried to rein some of these programs in, but they went around his back, basically. Jenny Lee, she's one of the people I'm really excited for you to meet in person, Jessica, because both of you are psychic seers, I believe.
Sweet.
Yeah, Tom Aldhouse. He has he's the original author of The Matrix. He has a script 6 years prior to meeting with Warner Brothers and then putting out the movie in 1999. But they stole that from him. He has the fight scenes choreographed, and all that was taken.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Brian, but we just talked about that yesterday with Barry, because he was talking about this Sophia lady who said that she is the one that wrote The Matrix. And I was like, I think Tom Althouse wrote that, actually.
So,
oops. Oh, did you take that down, or did I do that?
I did. I've asked Tom about this person, and we think either Sophia is either a red herring put up by Warner Brothers, because even though Tom's the real deal, you put her out in the public so people think she's a real deal and just keep Tom drowned out. Yeah. Or maybe she too got downloads like Tom. Maybe she shared her downloads with Warner Brothers, and maybe they stole the same ideas and downloads from Sophia as well as Tom. So I'm a little bit more open to interpretation in terms of what it is exactly, but yeah, at this point, I have less ire for the Sophia woman. Personally, I have no issues with her than I do with Warner Brothers Studios.
Yeah. That's a pretty interesting debate. I can't wait to meet Tom. I've had Tom on my show before. It's Spaced Out Radio, and that was a really fun show, really interesting. And he's very passionate about the movie and his script that he wrote. He is a playwright, and yeah, I mean that's one of like it's like the pinnacle of like us potentially living in a simulation. I mean, it connects so many dots. Okay, we talked about the Terminator movies yesterday because we were talking about the crystalline liquid metal and liquid robots, stuff like that. We even talked about graphene oxide and stuff, Brian. Okay.
Metamorphic materials and all the transhuman stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we talked about all that. I mean, it's all coming to a head. I think.
Okay. The Trump administration has announced that Biden was executed in 2020 and replaced with a clone or robot. And
man.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild. That wasn't on my bingo card, him just coming out and saying it like that. But
wow.
Now that he has, a lot of us in the community are like, all right, let's go. Cloning is now much more on the table. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, sometimes you just got to rip a Band-Aid off now, whether that's true or not. I mean, I think it may be true. I mean, that's kind of what some of us have been assuming for a while now, that was the case, especially if you follow like the Q stuff and, not to get too into it here on YouTube for, entertainment purposes only.
Entertainment purposes only, everybody.
Exactly. All this is entertainment purposes only, y'all. We're just out here having a good old time on a Thursday evening. Just talking about petrified mummies and stuff, the little people, and robot clones of the former president. I mean, you can't tell us, y'all, that we don't have fun on the channel. But yeah, that's really it.
If you don't laugh at some of this stuff, you will cry, and it's okay. Yeah, I
know. I try not to cry. That's why I'm always laughing. Okay, I've always got a smile on my face, and it's pretty awesome. But nonetheless, this is a great way to wrap up the show today. You guys, please join us at the Full Disclosure Now conference. I do have a flyer for that too. I know you just showed the website, but let's pull up the flyer real quick before we go. And y'all can get a good view of everybody that's going to be there. This is the latest flyer, I think, Brian. I hope.
Yeah, it's the latest, and it's not even everybody. We need to make one to fit everybody on there. But like it's going to be a pretty massive event. I'm very proud of our lineup. My guest list alone it's a who's who, and because just because I can pay everyone to speak on stage and have enough presentation slots doesn't mean I don't want you there. And so we've got a lot of honored guests and featured vendors who will be a very welcome surprise to attendees.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. And it's on the beach and we have fun. They have good food there and everything's great. Everything's great.
Exactly. Contact of the Desert's great. And you're in like Palm Springs, Indian Wells, and you walk out, it's hot, it's beautiful, and you're on golf courses. With us, you're going to, it's going to be St. Pete Beach. Yeah, people are like, oh, it's so hot in Florida in July. Yes, well, you're in a conference, a resort that's very air conditioned. And whenever you want, you walk right out of the conference building onto the beach and right into the water. And at night, that's some of the most quality time that I had at the conference was the nighttime talks on the beach. Of course, they limited the sleep I got, but oh well.
Oh well, you can sleep when you're dead. I'm just saying.
And then you can remote me and I'll say hi.
Absolutely. We'll pull out the Ouija board.
Just no, without. I'll make sure to tell you without that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it's got all the amenities of being in the South too, y'all. Okay, so and by that I mean Waffle House is right down the street because I went and had breakfast at Waffle House with some of the girls one more. It was so great. We had so much fun.
And we were out there. We have Buc-ee's down there in the South too. Not necessarily in Florida, but a trip to and getting to Florida, lots of Buc-ee's stops. Very happy.
Oh man, my ear just started ringing. Yeah, you remember my son had on the Buc-ee's beaver outfit at one of the dinners. Yeah,
yes, I
did.
We'll make sure to bring it back.
You're welcome, everybody.
Even though this disclosure event is of a highly serious nature in terms of content, we all want to have a lot of fun, and we encourage costumes. I thought about making it mandatory, but I don't think I could get away with that.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll all bring costumes. I will gladly do that. Yeah, Joe Monk says Waffle House doesn't even close during hurricanes. There's something real bad wrong if the Waffle House is closed. You can pretty much gauge a natural disaster by the Waffle Houses being open. if you know anything about Waffle Houses, y'all, and they have good waffles, good food. So that's another sponsor. If anybody knows I actually do know the guys that started Waffle House here in Georgia. What am I talking about? I'm gonna say if anybody knows them, holler at me.
Yeah, that'd be great. A Bigfoot Waffle House campaign.
Oh man, the first one was actually in Decatur, Georgia, and I used to work at the state capitol. One of the owners was a state senator, actually, out of Georgia, out of Decatur. So, yeah, the good old days back when I was in politics and stuff. So, but anyways, now I'm just talking about Bigfoot and little mummies and stuff. So, thank you so much for being here, Brian. Please come back and see me, and we'll maybe sometime before the conference we'll come back and we can do another push for a little promotion and stuff for the conference in case somebody hadn't got their tickets yet. Okay.
I would love that, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jessica.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, y'all. See you, Brian. I love it when people hop off really quick. Sorry. This has been really fun, you guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. Like I said, if you'd like to check out my page, my remote viewing data, go to my Patreon and become a member. And to thank you for all of my members of Patreon. I saw that Sovereign. Sovereign is on a mission, you guys, to change the algorithm with that word right there. Okay, so if you see it on the screen right now, that's the word. Okay, the frequencies, the word before frequencies. And yes, I don't know if that's what I want the algorithm to be on my show, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But you guys have a great night. And everybody, please come back and see me on Saturday. We always have a wonderful show as we go on the hunt at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, here back on the channel. I hope you guys all learned a little something tonight, because I know I always do. And I'm super glad that we have Brian here with us. And I want to thank everybody who gave the super stickers tonight. And Steve, I will check my PayPal. That was very sweet of you. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here tonight. And also, let's see who else. Skip and Margaret and Larry. Thank you guys so much for all your support over there. And you guys, please stay safe out there. We are pretty much on a full disclosure kick at this point. And yes, we talk about some pretty spicy topics. And I have been pushing the envelope sometimes with some of the things I talk about. So let's all pray for each other. And you guys go out there and be your own voice in your communities. And let's spread the word on getting the truth out there. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. And I will see you guys back here on Saturday. All right, y'all don't live in fear. Okay, I always say that. And have a great night.